The gentleman from Indiana is recognized for 3 minutes. Without objection.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I rise also tonight to talk a little bit about the size and the scope and the amount of employees that this federal government has. Now, earlier tonight I talked about the state from which I come from, Indiana. AAA bond rating, not raising taxes on anybody, and a budget that year after year has been in the black. As Secretary of State for Indiana for the last 8 years, I've operated a bureaucracy. I know a little bit about them. And what we have in Indiana, at least in the Secretary of State's office, was a pretty darn good one. We had no more employees in the Indiana Secretary of State's office than we did in the early 80s. We were running on a 1987 budget, unadjusted for inflation. And I can tell by the reaction of some of the members here in the House tonight, it's one of derision. It's one of scoffing. It can be done. The states know how to do it. Let's look to them. In contrast to Indiana, what do we see here at the federal level? 155,000 more bureaucrats than just a few years ago. An 80+% increase in the size and scope of this federal government, Madam Chairman, and that's just the personnel. We can have cuts in each of these departments. Every bureaucrat that we don't hire after one retires will cause a 10% decrease in the federal workforce over just a few years. That's responsible governing, especially when you're talking about a $14 trillion debt. Trillion-dollar year after year deficits. And as the previous Republican speaker, my friend Todd Young, pointed out, it's just getting worse. The red menace is upon us, and it's the red ink produced in this federal government right here from the well of this House to begin with. The Ryan proposal that came out of the Budget Committee addresses this in a responsible manner. The smaller we make this federal government, the more the private sector grows. It's correlational, it's definitional. I urge my colleagues to pass this budget proposal, the Ryan proposal, and I yield back the balance of my time.